we're all welcome. We're all welcome it on this new terrain of the online adventure for us. So thank you. So yes, so I invite all of you into a couple of minutes of silence as we all arrive.
Well, it's the birds there.
Hello. Hello.
Well done. Oh, well done. You're running. Oh, what? Hey, 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 hey.
It's some time ago now, maybe, I'm not quite sure, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, that we had a visitor to Embercombe, a woman who is an ornithologist. And she spoke to us about this, about the dawn chorus, and how it was like a wave that went around the world, around the earth, circling the earth. If you can imagine, as the sun rose in one part of our earth, and the birds start to sing just before the sun rises. And this dawn, of course, beginning a few minutes every however many miles it is. And so suddenly this bird song is rising and filling the sound, our land with their beautiful sound. And also it's going quiet behind us. And this wave of sound just travels with the sun around our earth, all the way round. And in fact, I guess it never stops. I was just wondering what to share with you all today. And I was thinking, ceremony is mentioned in one of those things which we would be offering to you. And it feels like a great place to begin, because we live, in my view, we live inside a huge ceremony. If you just imagine for a moment, we are on this planet Earth, this beautiful garden planet, this extraordinary Earth that we inhabit. And she spins on her axis. And we are one of a bunch of planets revolving around the star that we call the sun. You can just picture this in your mind, this huge, great dance of these great beings which are moving in their different orbits around the sun. we call our solar system. And then you imagine the countless solar systems that comprise our universe. This unknowable vastness that extends outwards around us. And then we come flying back in, as it were, towards our Earth. And we see how the seasons arrive and shift and change and move. And we see this whole cycle of life, living, at some point dying and falling away and being reborn. We live inside a ceremony. So I ask myself, and I'm asking you to consider, what is ceremony? What makes ceremony? Because we are in some ways almost persuaded that ceremony is something that others hold, others who are somehow entitled to hold ceremony. And we, the rest of us, we come and witness it or experience it at their hands, as it were. But it's not what the people that taught me, the indigenous people that taught me said. They said, create your own ceremonies, for you live within a ceremony. And everything becomes a ceremony if you wish it so to be. So I feel that human ceremony occurs when we consciously align and enter deep relationship with the big ceremony of which we are forever a part. The moment that we align in that way, the moment that we become conscious of it, even the tiniest and most insignificant of actions becomes ceremony. The tending of our gardens, the preparation of our meals, our love making, our deaths and births, of course, our breath and breathing, our going for a walk and standing in the forest, our standing in the center of our cities. Every moment, all the time, if we choose to walk in that way, we walk in ceremony. And this, I feel, is what also describes the deepest, most profound sense of belonging and lovingness that we can enter into during these lives that we have. So while I love the bigger ceremonies that I have participated in and those that I've created myself and do, the children's fire ceremony, the ceremony of the walk from where I was born to the Isle of Mona, the Earth Sundance ceremonies, the prayer lodge ceremonies, the bower ceremonies, the kiva ceremonies. Yes, whereas I love those, should I have to choose? And I think I would say the tending of my garden, the feeding my birds, the standing at night before I go to bed, walking out through the front door and standing on the little terrace we have and watching the stars and the moon and the weather, and in some simple way expressing my gratitude. So on that theme, I'll talk to you about a little ceremony that happened today. Well, actually, it began yesterday. So my wife, Wandia, and my little 3-year-old Kai are outside in the garden, and they witness a wasp attacking a bumblebee. We don't know whether this was the cause, but the bumblebee fell to the ground and was clearly not too well. So when I arrived home, there's a lot of commotion and a lot of excitement, and I'm dragged across to the back of the garden by Kai, and he shows me this little wounded bumblebee. And we make him a little bed of moss, and we put him in this little house where Kai has for this tiny little sort of upturned flower pot with a little doorway in it. And we put him in there. And one deer gets some sugary water and puts it by the bumblebee. And we do all this. This morning when we woke up, Kai and I shot out the door. We go over to the little house, and the bumblebee seems to have died. So then we have a conversation about what would be the best thing to do now. So Kai can't make his mind up, so he just holds the bumblebee in his hand, and we go for a walk in the forest nearby. And we go through the forest, and all the usual things are happening, all the normal kind of stuff. And we arrive at a stream, and he decides that he wants to give the bumblebee to the stream. So we stand on the bridge, and I'm saying to him, are you sure you want to do this, Kai? Because you know how sometimes you do things like this, but we can't undo it. So once we've done it, we've done it. We won't be able to get the bumblebee back. And he says, no. I want the bumblebee in the stream. Where does the stream go to? I said, the stream goes to the river. There's a pause. Where does the river go to? The river goes to the sea. Where does the sea go to? The sea goes to the ocean. Where does the ocean go to? Now I'm floundering a little bit. I said, well, some of it goes to the sky. What happens then? Well, sometimes it rains. Where does the rain go to? The rain goes to Dartmoor, which he knows about, and makes puddles. Where the puddles go to? They go to a little stream. Oh. And we're just quiet for a while. And then he completely switches attention because he hears a woodpecker. So then we're listening to this woodpecker, and we're both silent. And then another woodpecker starts about 90 degrees to the first woodpecker. And then we're both looking in that direction. He's very excited. And then a third woodpecker starts behind us. So we have a triad of woodpeckers all drumming on some tree, sending out messages that they're marking out their territory. Every moment of all of this, we are offered this intense, profound opportunity to be in ceremony, witnessing, participating, feeling with our bodies and all of our imagination, every part of us, the wonderment of what it means to be alive, which is another way of saying what it means to be in ceremony. Now I'm participating in something else next week, and I look at the material that I've been sent, and I'm being informed that one of the other people who I might be working with is a spiritual master. And I have to admit, I sense a sort of slight sagging in me at that point. And I make a mental note to check how I'm going to be introduced, because I want to be introduced as Mac, and then it stops, because that is the truth of it. I am certainly not a spiritual master. I am not a bunch of all the other things that people attach titles to. I'm just Mac, a normal, fumbling human being attempting to make sense of his world and try and tend the garden of this life in such a way that I could say I left it a little more beautiful than I found it. We are all in this blessed place where we can just choose to be alert and to be as conscious as we can of how we wake and how we go to sleep, of how we treat each other, of how we treat our friends and how we treat those that we've never ever met before, the strangers in our lives. How we meet the gift that each dawn brings, how we meet our challenges, how we meet our failures as much as our successes. Every single one of these moments defines the human that we are. We're not asked, I don't think, to be perfect, since it's an impossible invitation anyway. I'm sure creation understands that. We're invited to agree to the idea of seeking to become whole. And whole for me, and I say, well, and this is influenced by those, I guess, that taught me, but I say, well, I have my body. I have my physical presence and capacity. I have my mind, my intellect. I can train my body. I can exercise my body. I can treat my body well. I can grow to love my body, even though it has never been, as it were, as I perfectly would have chosen it to be. I always felt that 5'7.5" tall was really not quite a true measure of the person I wish to present myself to the world. But it is what I am, and not what's actually the case is I'm getting smaller. So 5'7.5" at my greatest height, 5 foot, who knows what, if 5 foot by the time I kick it. I have my body, I can do stuff to allow my body to be healthy and strong and feel good about it. My intellect, I have an intellect. I may not have registered the highest IQ that I would again have loved to have possessed, I imagine, I guess, as a child when I had it, and I asked my brother what he got, and his was more than mine, and that was pissed me off, really. But I have my intellect, and I can exercise it, I can train it, I can develop it, I can do all these wonderful things. You'll notice that on many of the spiritual platforms, they say mind, body, spirits. But for the Native Americans, they missed out this most important and powerful energy that sits in the South on their medicine wheel, the power of emotion. Emotion is a great power, and we would be bereft without it. It energizes, it brings power to all things. It is the most wonderful thing. I can learn and grow and come into balance with myself emotionally. I do not wish to be unemotional. I wish to be emotionally fluent so that I can feel things, because what is the point of being alive on this earth if we are not feeling things? And without that capacity of emotion, how could I ever feel empathy? Where I can recognize in others the feelings that I have and come into relationship with them. And then spirit. Yes, our spirit. This unknowable phenomenon, this spark that we observe goes out like a light switch when someone dies. This sort of sudden disappearance, this extraordinary experience I had in Nikiva in North America, in this dream ceremony when I saw the spirit of the goose that I had killed at the end of 15 years being vegetarian at that time leave the body of the goose. Only ever happened once, but I knew I no longer needed to believe about spirits in happening bodies because I had witnessed the spirit leaving the body. most of the time, we don't get these experiences. They are just things that we I guess we decide whether they're true or they're not true, or we work on the basis of a hypothesis. It doesn't really matter, but why not work on the basis of the hypothesis? We have this thing called spirit. We sense it to be unknowable, unfathomable, but we feel it like it guides us in some way, like an invisible thread tugging at us, encouraging us, taking our hand at times. The element within the tradition that I was introduced to at the time of spirit is fire. So when we talk about the children's fire, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with the children's fire in our solar system is, of course, the sun, burning at the center of the solar system, speaking its message. No law, no decision, no action, nothing of any kind will be permitted to go out from the circle of chiefs that will harm the children. In other words, the young of all kind. In other words, the renewal of all species. In other words, life itself. So I want to finish now with just reading to you this letter that was sent to me many years ago now, because it returns to that idea of ceremony. Ceremony in all the ordinary yet extraordinary things that inhabit our lives. One of those, of course, are trees. You do not have to go far to find a tree in most places in this earth, or at least many. And certainly here in this country, in the UK, even in our cities, not too hard to find. So the letter goes like this. Dear Mac, so often we separate ourselves from things that bring us joy. For example, we watch the trees journey through the seasons, yet we believe this has nothing to do with us outside of the ordinary. We do not stop to think that perhaps this which we call ordinary is in fact their language and is in fact extraordinary, the language of life. Imagine a beautiful tree, maybe an apple tree. As I speak this, by the way, guys, just let yourselves go a little bit dreamy. If you want to, you can close your eyes, but just really go with the tree. Imagine a beautiful tree, maybe an apple tree. Imagine that autumn has come to the land and the apple trees are beginning to drop their leaves. Each leaf comes to rest at the roots of the tree. These same leaves will decompose, becoming food for the roots of the apple tree, the past becoming the future. The apple tree stands and studies each leaf that rests at its feet. The leaves are the symbols of the apple tree's experience. The tree's example brings us a question. Do you stop, allow your experiences to settle, and then study them and find the learning they hold? Are you embarrassed when some of your leaves have become insect-eaten, burnt by the hot sun, painted gold with time and age? Do you understand that these experiences must be allowed to settle in order that you can move on, that you never, never lose them, that they are transformed into the food of your future. Leafless, the gentle tree enters into the dream time of the Black Lodge, wintertime. The tree hides behind no past triumphs. She enters into the death renewal time of the winter, almost naked. How often do we humans cling to our past, resting on past successes and avoiding the challenge of renewal? Men and women sicken when they wear the same leaves season after season, and there is no renewal. The dream time of the apple tree is hugely important, and it is the same for us. The White Lodge, spring comes, and the apple tree awakens. She takes her dreams and sews them together into a robe of flowers. Each flower dream has her individual scent, her individual loveliness, and depending upon this power, she is blessed and so pollinated by the world. How often do we humans cling to our leaves, only to try and wear more dream flowers in the spring? How often are our dreams clouded by the insistencies of our past? How often do we refuse the pollination interaction of the world? Throughout the Gold Lodge of summer, the apple tree works to bring her dream flowers to fruit. Each of her new leaves gathers sunshine. Each of her new roots gathers nourishment from the earth. These she binds together, earth, air, water, and fire, and creates fruit. If her fruit is enchanting enough for the world to fall in love with, then the seeds of that fruit will be spread, and the apple tree will become more. How often do we build our dreams of sorrow and those things that taste bitter, and yet expect the world to come and taste? How often are we angered by our lack of courage, our refusal to meet the challenge of standing up and being seen? Into the red lodge of summer, the apple tree enters. She shares her fruit with all the world. Once again, she drops each leaf to her feet and contemplates her many experiences and dreams. That which is not shared, she knows will become the nourishment of her roots. How often do we humans try and hoard our dreams, then become angry because we feel we have not accomplished? How often do we wait and sell our fruit only to those who can climb high enough to pay? What happens to the tree if she tries to hold her fruit throughout the winter? Your friend, Rocky.
Thank you, Mac. Thank you very much for that wondrous introduction into ceremony of everyday life. And thank you to everyone for joining us. This is our first somewhat wobbly start. Apologies for the feedback in the beginning and the noise. We'll try and hold that better. So next week we will be continuing these online sessions, and so keep a lookout for your emails. We'll be coordinating that, and we'll be welcoming medicine woman Fiona Shaw and Anger Adwini, a Welsh author and poet and storyteller. So they will be joining us in conversation with Mac next week. So please do join us and share to whoever you think would like to join our virtual fire storytelling session. We wish you all the best during this difficult time, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mac. It's
Thank you.
very special.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mac.
Thank you.
Thank you all.